We was just a thought we had. We
Oh.
chatted about it.
I don't think so.
Okay,
Because
we
she's,
did roll out an update to fix the issue that you brought
Oh.
up last time with logging in,
yeah,
so that should be fixed now, but
I still
It's to make it easy for you to not
Okay,
have to
then
worry
I
about
don't have to go
knowing.
find the URL. I got you. Okay. Oh, that's good to know.
Okay, let's see here. It is 12:02 in the PM, so we will go ahead and get started for all of those. Oh, that's my headphones. All of a sudden I started hearing myself and I was confused.
You good, man?
So I'm good. I'm here. Okay. All right. So, good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Goins, and we are doing our monthly lunch in. We have changed the name from Brown Bags to Lunch and Learns. There's a history there behind why we did this. Look it up. We'll share it with you if you're interested. But there is some negative connotation in in history for the term brown bag. And so we just we went ahead and changed the term to be our Lunch and Learns now, which can be a little more appropriate, I suppose, as well. So that's why this is our March Lunch and Learn for this month. So I sent out the agenda yesterday. We're gonna just kind of go down some things. You'll have to forgive us if we're a bit scatterbrained at the moment. There are a lot of things happening right now, both that you are aware of and behind the scenes that we're trying to work on as well, that we're kind of chat about throughout this morning. So first thing I'm going to touch on, which is really the easiest thing for us to touch on, is we did do a theme update last week. That went off without a hitch pretty well. No gigantic changes to the service in general with that theme update. A number of the things were behind the scenes and were accessibility related. If you're interested, you can look at the changelog. But I just wanted to point out the two things that are, I think, probably most significant to what you all have to deal with on a daily basis and what you all have to do with your general site building. The first is when you create pages, the excerpt field, and something that I've hit on in the past, and I'll reiterate why it's important now, but the excerpt field for any new pages that you create will show. I should say the excerpt field by default will show. You still have to be aware of what is in it versus what is displayed externally when you are linking to pages or when Google brings up your pages. So right now, this field will show by default, and when this content is added and you publish the page, what used to happen in the past is this would populate with this stuff. That no longer happens. Now moving forward, and this happened a theme release previously, but now that the excerpt fields are on by default, I want to reiterate the excerpt functionality so that everybody is all on the same page. What used to happen was this would populate into this, and then this would never change regardless of what you put up here. Now what happens is when you update your page, whatever the first bit of information that appears in this area right here will auto-populate in an excerpt, a secondary excerpt field that is not visible. And essentially we just made it not visible because we don't want you to worry about it. But it is always updating based on the content that you put into here. So now if I change this to Happy Little Clouds, this is now the excerpt that would show up in that particular field. So this is happening for pages that you create moving forward. Any pages that exist, you still have to be aware of the content that appears down in the excerpt field because it's not retroactively fixing this problem. So you still would go down into this particular excerpt field and you might see, this instead of this. So you still have to make sure that you go into all of your pages and put in an excerpt that is appropriate as a sort of like a summary. It says it right there, but it's essentially a summarization of the content of the page itself. And really, the biggest culprits of this are pages that are like faculty staff pages where it's going to pull in the content of the first person that shows up on the page rather than welcome to our staff page where you can learn a little bit more about the people who work at the Center for Limnology. So, yes.
Kelly,
Hi, Kelly.
thank you. So on a current page, for example,
Mhm.
if I go to my faculty staff page,
Yep.
since we're here.
Thank you, Kelly, for always being a willing participant in
You know,
Matt's demonstration
I'm curious
time.
about this.
So if I edit this page,
Uh-huh. I'm curious what's on my faculty staff excerpt.
so right now if we look down at your excerpt field,
Oh.
this is what your excerpt field says.
But what does it say on a faculty staff page?
You would want to address this because that's weird right there.
Lim Lab?
Lim Lab. Is it Limnology Lab?
No, we call it the Lim Lab.
Oh,
Ask
okay,
for
well,
Lim
there you go
Lab,
then.
right?
Well, then it's appropriate.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so your faculty staff page, you're saying.
But what you're saying is, if I don't like what's down there on the old pages,
Yep.
current pages,
Yep.
go down there and change it.
Yep, and update it, and it would work. So let's look at
And
this
if
one.
I take everything out of that,
It will automatically populate with what is.
as soon as I click publish, it's
Should.
going right back down
Yeah,
there.
it should. That's something that I think we'd have to test. I don't know that we had addressed that. So nothing's showing up in there
Right.
now. So you could go down into here and populate it with something that is more
But that's an
appropriate.
old page.
It is, which means that you never had any text on here previous to this.
Oh, not on
So
this page.
so the content element
Hmm.
isn't going to populate it with text.
I would have had to add a text box
Yes.
to this page.
Yep.
Oh, I did
Which
not
which
get
we've
that.
had a number of sites where they have done that,
Yeah.
and then after they did that, they went to the faculty staff list rather
Right.
than the page itself.
Just one of the elements, faculty staff element. Oh.
So again, I just want to reiterate the importance of the excerpt field, why you should be aware of it. Although, thankfully now the excerpt fields are on by default rather than needing them to be turned on.
And on a new page, if I type something in the excerpt field, it will override whatever's over there on the right-hand side
Yep.
that I can't see.
Thank you for that, because I gotta take a mouthful of food. That's actually a good clarification, because now the moment you add a manual in here, you need to make sure that you are addressing it moving forward.
Mhm.
So if the content of the page changes, you'll want to make sure you also change the excerpt, because this is now your excerpt. It no longer is the one that's over on the right side, the hidden one. It is now what this field shows.
And if I delete that one at some point, it reverts back to
Should.
the one.
That's a note I'm going to take and actually talk to our developers on to see if that's a. Actually, Jonathan should be listening in, so he might chime in if he has a thought on that. Okay. So that's the first thing to be aware of, is the fact that the excerpt fields are now on. Second thing to be aware of, and this is mostly for our new sites created moving forward. So unfortunately, this doesn't affect anyone retroactively, but by default, the search option is going to be turned on for all sites moving forward, which is something that was a struggle in the past because of the fact that in training I always hammer home, if people can't find what they're looking for, you need to give them a means to actually look for what they're looking for. So you should have your site search turned on, because it's good user experience, it's good for your audience, it's good to give them that opportunity. It's easy to miss, because if you're setting up your site, you don't know you need to go in and turn that on. So now, moving forward, it is on by default. For those of you who have existing sites, it's not on by default for you. You still have to make sure that you manually go in and turn it on. We didn't want to retroactively enforce something that might weird out your styles on your page. So So those were the two, I think, biggest theme. Jen, anything else out of the theme update that was significant from a visual, actual user standpoint?
The jumbled.
That was a bug.
I have a question about that excerpt, if you're moving away from it.
I will be moving away from it, but we can come back to it in a
Okay.
second. So there was also a bug where the image carousel page element, when you reduced it down, it would incorrectly order these images. So suddenly this particular gallery item would not be this image. It would jumble them. And then once you went back to full screen view, it would again rejumble them still out of order. It kept sliding them one ahead, essentially. And so that was just a bug we fixed that honestly only one person or one group emailed in about, but I'm assuming that a number of our sites are using the image carousel element and just didn't know that this was an issue. We didn't know about it either until the ticket came in. So this was an ongoing issue for a while that we just didn't have time to address. It is now fixed. Back to you, Kelly.
Can you go to the Center for Limnology?
I can.
Not the edit mode, just the regular mode. And so in search, type station use. So that's the excerpt, right?
Yep.
That's what's showing here.
Yep.
That's what's going to show in a Google search.
Maybe Google.
On
Google is a little.
Google.com.
Google is a little bit weird because they
Oh.
pull in those excerpts from a lot of different sources. There is
Oh.
no truth to the Google algorithm. The excerpt field does influence what the Google result
Oh, I thought when
is.
you said excerpt, you meant at google.com.
Yes, it does heavily influence it, but it's not the only thing that Google's algorithm takes into
Oh,
place.
you meant this.
Yeah,
excerpt.
well, this, and if you link to things out of like your banner images, out of your hero images,
Uh-huh.
it'll also think, yes, Phil, from the back seats.
Yeah, you wanna scroll down and just get that on the screen again so people can see there's the excerpt. Oh no, where was it now?
Oh.
Sorry, I'll go back to station
Yeah.
use.
And what I'm just gonna walk you through then is how do you actually go tell what Google sees?
Uh-huh.
So this is, 2.5 long lines of text about it. Obviously, this is a lot from the article itself. So if you want to open a new tab and just go to google.com and then type in site : this is the colon, and then limnology.wis.edu. And then you gotta get it.
It's
All right.
okay, nobody's watching.
Nobody's watching. Okay.
Sweet
And
Caroline.
then is his space and then do station space use, same thing again.
Okay,
And
hit enter.
Yeah, hit enter.
Okay.
Your first result should be, yeah, so the first result is actually the same page. So now you can see here how much space Google actually even gives, right? It doesn't take that whole thing.
Sorry, wrong tab. There we go. So the station is located on.
But you had to literally type all that. If he had just Googled limnology station use, he would have gotten the same thing right there, right? No?
I did.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
and there it is.
So the site : allows you to specifically target your website.
Yeah.
So
Oh, okay.
it means if there was some other limnology department that had a station use page. So again, it depends on what your search terms are, right?
Yep.
If your search terms are pretty specific, yeah, maybe you're the only result there anyways. But we wanted to know for your site specifically. That's one of the things you can do to try to answer a question about it. But yeah, so you can see here though, it's like, all right, so if this is how much Google has, maybe I can come up with text that would fit in here that, that it doesn't feel weird that it's cut off or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Anyways, just another viewpoint on that.
And when did this take effect? Because we just created a bunch of new pages.
So the excerpt field being on just took effect with UW theme release 1.9. The excerpt automation process, or the excerpt setup that we have now, was one theme release before, so it would have been
going on
a month and a half ago or so.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it would have been our February release.
Well, the good thing is it's never going to be blank.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. We set that up right. I'm not going to get into it now because it's a larger conversation. But in the Google Analytics training I did a week ago or so, I did talk through how you can use Google Analytics to actually track the search terms that are used on your site, as well as using Google Search Console to track the Google terms that are used when people actually do find your site and click through to your site. So I talked a little bit about both of those in that training. So, and then I have another one coming up next week or in a couple of weeks. I'll go through the same stuff. So I'll reiterate it for anybody who wants to listen in on those. Okay, so that's the theme release. Again, nothing too dramatic about that. We have another theme release coming up in April, hopefully. We'll get into that in a little bit here. In April, hopefully, that we'll have we hope to have some nice new sort of page element functionalities that we're kind of excited to show off, but they're not there yet, so we don't want to, count our chickens before they're hatched. That's it. It's okay. I'm on mic. Nobody's listening. Okay, so let's chat now about what has been happening in general with the service over the past couple of weeks and the past month. What happened, what we did, what we're doing moving forward. So the what happened part of it is, my laptop's not plugged in, so I'm gonna lose energy here pretty fast. There we go. Okay. So what happened? Essentially what started happening roughly end of January, we'll say. It had been happening for a longer time, but it really hit the wall for us in, I'd say, late January into middle of February, was the WiscWeb service started to suffer and be the target of a number of what are called botnet attacks and denial of service attacks, which essentially is a whole lot of traffic was being thrown at our service that we couldn't ignore / turn away, which in turn affected our ability to actually deliver the sites and maintain uptime. So we had lots of downtime in there, lots of slowness because of the bot attacks. This is all a bunch of network mumbo jumbo that I'm going to try and say in layman's terms as best as possible. But essentially, we were just under attack by outside external forces that were causing our servers to not be able to handle the load of traffic that was coming through the pipeline. So that was WiscWeb specifically for some time. That expanded to also do it web hosting. So not only was WiscWeb being affected, web hosting was being affected, and some of the other groups that share hosting space with us, they were also being affected during this time. So suddenly, lots of services were starting to be affected by this downtime. So our response was to implement some functionality. One of the things that we've been talking about quite a bit lately was something called mod security. So we implemented this mod security functionality that, in essence, started to deny these various IP addresses the ability to do much to visit our sites or to interact with our sites. The unfortunate byproduct of that process of us turning on mod security was the security was in place for everything, not just for the things we didn't want to have happening. So that's what happened with the vast majority of you. When you tried to update some of your pages, you would get that 127.0.0.1 site cannot be reached error message. And essentially what was happening there was something on your page that mod security considered to be a vulnerability, and so therefore you were not being allowed to do that thing that you needed to do. As simple as you had a quotation mark or a parentheses on your page, it considered those to be attacks. So that in turn led to myself, Jenna, some of the other developers, Phil, working through our logs to find the values that coincided with your sites and the issues that you were seeing, processing those through our Apache servers so that you could in turn be able to update your pages and your sites. And I had some notes, and I don't want to bring them up because I forgot to bring them up. Jenna might know them off the top of her head. I think we had like 78 known issues.
Around there,
Yeah, in the 70s, known issues in relation to mod security that had been reported through our either our support form or directly to us through email or through help desk.
Many of which were the same issue.
Yeah, and we have resolved. I think the number was in the 60s. We have
68.
Yeah.
At this point, it's probably more like 70.
Yeah, we have resolved the vast majority of those issues. So hopefully for the vast majority of you, you're able to now edit your sites as you were before all of this stuff happened. There are still some lingering issues with mod security that we are still researching. At this time, I think the big ones are gravity forms and gravity flow specifically, and WP data tables. Some data tables don't display because, they make some sort of, whatever content is in the table, it is making some sort of external call that mod security is seeing as a vulnerability. And so therefore, the table will not display for audiences. The one we're trying to work through now is table will display on campus connection, table will not display on off-campus connection. We can't find the issue in the logs specifically. We're digging around with data tables, trying to see if there's something known issues there. We're looking into it. It hasn't been an easy thing to resolve. So that's essentially what happened with the mod security aspect of this. We are also implementing other network level and server level updates and additions that will hopefully keep the service now more protected from those types of things. We've been in contact with a lot of the various site reliability engineers within Do-It. Phil Jochimson is one of those individuals who's been working on this quite a bit. A couple of other folks who you all have probably seen or chatted with in our open labs or in these meetings as well. But it's an ongoing issue, and it's not something where we can just basically say, okay, we're done, and clap and wave our hands and we're good to go there. It's an ongoing process. We're going to continue to monitor it. We're going to continue to update it. As you see issues arise, get in touch with us. Let us know what's going on. We can then start to take a look at logs and see if it's an issue related to our security or to our performance, or if it's just something else that we hadn't seen previously. So that's the mod security part of this puzzle, or the security and the performance part of this puzzle. We also did an update last week for another functionality called jQuery. jQuery 3 is what we updated our sites to and what the UW theme to. That, in turn, has also caused some issues for us. Data tables is the one that was this issue. So data tables, there's an issue with jQuery. jQuery is JavaScript. It's coding language stuff and how some of the stuff is displayed on pages. Data tables has an issue with the new version of jQuery. So some tables have shown up as not working. Data tables is pushing out an update to meet the jQuery requirements. Once that update is out, we are going to be testing it, and in our next sprint, I think it's our next sprint, which is mid-April.
It's running through the end of this month, so 18.
Oh, we're doing data table. We're doing the plugin updates in this sprint.
Tentatively.
Okay. I thought we
Not
had.
this sprint ends next week. So then that 18.
Oh, through the end of the month. Okay, thank you. So in 2 weeks, yes, in 2-ish weeks, we will run our process to update the plugins so that that will alleviate that issue.
And the reason for that is we want to make sure that any changes that we make to the plugins happen after we've wrapped up a lot of the mod security related issues, so that it just helps us with troubleshooting, so that we can clearly identify that the issue is related to the plugin update rather than
Yeah.
security.
My voice is, I don't know. I'm moving around, Linda, so maybe not. I don't know. I'm an animated guy. Linda says my voice is breaking up on the recording, so I don't know. Might be quality as well. Okay, let's see. Theme, performance and security. What's next? Do we want to talk about the support moving forward stuff?
Sure.
Okay. So, in case you hadn't heard, things are happening around the world right now with the COVID-19, the coronavirus stuff. We are, I guess, we are trying to determine what our best process is going to be moving forward in regards to support. We don't really have any clear direction. I shouldn't say any clear direction. We don't have any specific direction. Clear means it's muddled. We just don't have any specific direction yet as to if anything is going to happen in regards to the WiscWeb service, just in relation to our time here on campus, obviously. But basically what we wanted to say was, moving forward, our priorities are going to be dictated by do-it and campus specific priorities, with our then support priorities coming in line with that as well. Basically, our priorities moving forward are going to be performance and uptime. We want to make sure that all of our sites are up, especially given the fact that students are not going to be here on campus and traffic through your sites are likely going to increase, which means we need to make sure that we handle that part of the puzzle most importantly. Secondly, making sure that once we have that in place, we want to make sure that mission critical sites, that hasn't yet been defined, so I don't really know what to say about that, other than to say that there are mission critical sites around campus that are significant for student and campus use that are going to receive higher priority. And like I said, we don't have any definition of any of those sites within the WiscWeb service. But you know, if we have some specific instruction that certain sites need to make sure that they are supported first, that's going to have to happen, and we're going to have to put all of our efforts into making sure that any issues that arise there are addressed. I guess I don't know what's happening with help desk with students not returning as well.
I don't know. I don't think we've had an update on that.
I don't think
but
we've had
I would
an update.
imagine that, some things might change in terms
Yeah,
of
so
support from that level.
So our tier 1 support is going to get a little weird as well, because if help desk students aren't here on campus, they're the ones who address our initial intake of support tickets. That's still up in the air as to what's going to happen with that.
And when I fill that support form out,
Yep.
it goes to them.
Yep.
It really depends on what kind of request.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So some of the things, some of the items in there go through help desk because it can be triaged. Some of those things go other locations because of the fact that a help desk student's not going to really be involved in that process.
Radio buttons I click on.
Yeah, so a good example is like plugin activation requests. The help desk can't ever do anything with that because they don't have access. They don't have super admin rights to the WordPress instance. So you'd be sent there, and then they wouldn't be able to do any kind of triaging or support on it. There's not going to be anything they or you can do at that point. It's us activating it on your project. So those go directly to our team.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I say it in my emails all the time, and I'm especially thankful for it, like in weird times like this where we've had these weird performance issues, and then suddenly we're in an issue that honestly no one can control. you guys have all been great in regards to patience and understanding, and it, sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short, that we can get around to fixing things, but I mean, all we can do is beg of you more patience and understanding as we move forward, and us trying to fix things, because we don't really know what the landscape's going to look like in an hour, let alone tomorrow, let alone a week from now. So we're just going to keep trying to do as best we can. One of the conversation topics that has come up, I guess, obviously is, I don't know that we should still be having open labs, just because, again, trying to limit general, I guess, gatherings of, and I don't know if that's going to be directed that we aren't supposed to be on campus either. So it gets a little weird with us trying to figure out how we are going to best support you moving forward in a virtual world. Jenna and I were chatting about it beforehand, about setting up like some office hours that you can schedule, like 15-minute blocks with us, to basically just kind of talk us through the issue, see if we can fix it. If we can't, we put it into the queue and we start to war room it, basically, and we'll all have to meet as a team virtually to try and figure those things out. I think that's really where we stand right now. Jenna has been working quite a bit with some of our department leads, which in turn have been working with division leads, which in turn have been working with campus leadership. We're trying to figure out messaging for you, for your audiences, and like what's going to happen moving forward. I have started to write up a little message that I'm going to hopefully send out tomorrow with just general information that I'm kind of sharing with you now, which is, we have priorities. Those priorities are set by campus and by Do It. We will try to meet all of the needs that we can as best we can moving into this strange new world for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Or months.
But expect delays
Yeah.
in support, especially on things that don't look to be emergency tickets. If there's any way that those can wait, we appreciate that.
Let's see, a quick intake of the chat. Bradley, I know about your table issues. We're still troubleshooting those. We're not sure if that's ModSec related or if it's jQuery related. We're still troubleshooting it. Same thing goes with that form. We think it might be jQuery related, your form that isn't displaying correctly. But I am going to chat with I'm going to chat with devs during the open lab to see if they can take a look at it and give me some further clarification on what might be happening with that. Michael, I don't think that WW data tables fix thing, I don't think that that's mattered since Gravity. We updated data tables long ago, so you could probably remove that. You remember the short code with WW data tables fix that we implemented a long time ago. I mean, a lot of people still have it in there. I don't think it would matter, because tables display normally now based on updates that we've done to WP data tables, so you should be good to go there. Okay. That all went faster than I thought it would. Any questions? No, Kelly?
I know, it's shocking.
Kelly.
No.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is a short one. I mean, it's a weird, I've been talking to people all day today, just how weird of a world it is right now, that just everything is stopping. And it's, I don't know. It's a weird world we live in at the moment.
So I do have one question,
Go ahead.
because we have that blog coming online. I haven't checked with Adam to
Oh,
see.
thank you for that.
Yep.
I'll touch on something once
Okay.
you're done, but
Okay.
it made me think of something.
Right.
Yep.
Is the timeline for going live with sites? It was 2 weeks. Now
You,
is that?
you asked the question that I was
Yeah.
going to lead
Oh,
into.
okay.
So Kelly asked about the timeline for site launches, and is it still the same? We still want the 2-week lead. we still do want the 2-week lead, but we're in a weird position in regards to staffing for that aspect of our process, because we're going to be down one person from the web hosting side of things, and that one person was the one who did a lot of the DNS, the domain registration, the domain reservation
You lost
part
him
of
to
it.
this whole coronavirus thing?
No.
No.
He has to go. He has his.
I didn't mean like he has coronavirus.
No.
I meant
Oh.
his
His
responsibility.
no. His time, his responsibilities are moving to something else. I don't think is it related? I don't think it's related to this. He's just.
Yeah,
Oh, it is. Oh.
Otherwise,
I don't
it would not be
it's
changing.
by the way, we're gonna have more people calling about why isn't my VPN working?
Oh,
why am I
okay.
doing video conferencing?
Got
And
it.
turns
Oh,
out
okay.
since he already knows that
I didn't
stuff
know
too,
he was
That
moving
would
to
be
that.
me.
He's
This
Okay.
getting, right, so
afternoon.
it's
Yeah.
getting, his time is getting reassigned back to the
Yeah.
help desk main, or proper, or whatever you wanna call it, and away from this. Now, some of the bonus is part of the work that we're doing to better equip the WiscWeb infrastructure to handle continued attacks, is gonna actually it's gonna eliminate part of what we needed him to do as far as the SSL certificate, so when you get HTTPS in your browser tab. So that's good, and the timing of that's soon, so that'll help, but that's not gonna cover all the gap of what we had him do. So yes, good question. Is 2 weeks still reasonable? Question mark.
I think that's something that we're still trying to figure out. Hopefully we'll have an answer soon.
Yeah.
But I would anticipate that things like that may change for a certain period of time.
Yeah. So I guess just to close up that thought, for those of you who are building sites out and are going to request a site launch, 2 weeks might not be the time frame that we have, just because we don't know how long it's going to take for us to get all of that reservation process done and the DNS setup process done. We just don't know, because, like I said, we're losing one person from that process who had a pretty big hand in and had the hand in that process. So Bradley just asked about the Gravity Forms signature feature back. So Gravity Forms has a signature, a Gravity signature add-on that we had added as a functionality that people were interested in having. Subsequently, we have talked with campus cybersecurity, and we have been told that signatures are considered digital signatures are considered sensitive data, or restricted. Sensitive or restricted? Sensitive data. Therefore, we cannot offer the Gravity Forms signature add-on anymore. We're going to be removing it as soon as we can communicate that process out. Sorry, it hasn't been the time for us. But cybersecurity let us know that that's not it is a sensitive data item that you cannot collect, so we have to remove it, unfortunately. I know I just had to remove it. Well, also it's causing a problem right now with jQuery as well. But the other fact is we were going to be removing it eventually anyway, because of the fact that cybersecurity does not want it used to capture that particular information.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that cybersecurity can, but we are not a service that can host sensitive
you're right.
or
I'm
restricted
sorry.
data, and therefore,
Yeah.
as soon as we found out, we knew we had to remove it from the
Well, eventually they would not want us to have it.
Question, since this is funny, I've never actually seen what the signature thing looks like. Is the signature thing that's going away something where you sort of like wave your mouse that sort of resembles what my cursive signature would have looked like? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Okay, so that means the yes, I agree, and hit a checkbox, air quote, digital signatures, anything like that would still be fine because it's not a signature. It's literally not a visual of
Yeah, my mouse signature is not my signature.
Well, you know what I mean, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think anybody's signature at the credit card.
But so if I had the touch screen, I couldn't have written my name out.
Yep.
In that field?
Yep.
Yes, I could, or yes, I could not.
Could have.
You could have, yes.
Oh, so I could have signed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Handy.
Okay, that's fine, and I completely understand, because the, if we lost pictures of people's signature or something that resembled it, that's a bad thing. If I, and there's sometimes online, you guys have seen that obviously with terms of service agreements, where you're like, you basically just say yes, or you check a box. Sometimes I've seen that referred to as a signature. It is not a two-dimensional signature, I guess we'll say, right? So things like that would still be fine, at least from the standpoint, because like we can't lose the X that you clicked, or the box that you filled in.
Yeah. And actually,
Sure, that was a neat capability, but yeah.
I was just trying to find. I just actually did something because.
Did we talk about alternatives to that too, or no?
Yeah, that's what I was just actually gonna
There were some
say.
other options. I'm trying to remember what. There was some Adobe one a while back too.
So what I did was, political science got in touch with me because they were using this same signature, but jQuery broke it. And so what happened was, and then I let them know that we were going to be removing it. I put this field in for them, and I just basically said, I made a required checkbox. And in that checkbox, it just says acknowledgement, I agree, and then whatever statement that you want to make about the fact that you are agreeing. So it being a required field, you are essentially saying, for you to submit this, you must click this checkbox. And by clicking this checkbox, you are acknowledging the following. And that's the kind of thing that you can put in as a required field to basically say, you have to be aware of this. And it does give you now essentially a fallback to say, no, you click this, you are aware of what this, you should be aware of what this thing is. And again, you can set up similar to what we have done with some of your forms, where you could set up a notification that has some additional information in it that sends back to the person who fills out this form, that just basically says at the very top of it, this information you have acknowledged, blah, 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 to, identify that, they did check it and they did agree to it. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, for your purpose, Bradley, that might be something to take a look at, is using some alternative that still has a means of, I don't really want to say legal because I'm not a legal expert, but some means of covering that particular need for your purpose, for that form that you were looking at. So that was another. So that was a jQuery thing that popped up, and I mean, it stinks that it happened, but also it gives us a little more of a nudge in relation to, we needed to get rid of the signature field thing. Anyway, I should say I do want to chat with. I don't know who to chat with from cybersecurity, but I do want to chat with someone from cybersecurity, or maybe have them come in and chat with you all during one of our lunch and learns, because I have seen a number of forms that ask for data that is considered sensitive or restricted, and we as a service can't host that stuff. And so we want to make sure that you're aware of the types of things that you shouldn't be asking via Gravity forms.
Well, for the love of God, where's the
Like a website that tells you, but this is about the data classification.
Yep.
Stuff.
Yeah.
How do
What
you
is
know
restricted versus what is sensitive?
Right.
So, and we also have a KB that has information about our sensitive and restricted data policy that links out to that documentation if you need it.
Perfect. SKB.
There's a knowledge base?
We went everything there.
Did you check the KB?
Did you check the KB? Oh, here it is. Sensitive and restricted data policy 98242.
And you just typed in the word data.
I did type in just the word data.
Because we do ask for, I can't imagine your name and email are part of that.
So, yeah.
Hang on there. Hang on right there.
Hold.
Yeah, so
Slow your roll.
Right, so this is some examples, and then that link at the bottom there has the
Okay, good.
bigger detailed list Because I think they
Yeah.
actually, they literally give you this was restricted, but this was also
Oh,
sensitive.
okay.
I think my shortcut on the restricted one, when I try to tell people about it, restricted data is, to me, is almost always things where like we have some interesting legal obligation with the data. And like, so as an example, we lose an SSN, we're legally required to do something about that. You know, and I think the same thing for, I think, some bank numbers and, actually, is that even on? I don't even remember. Yeah, so, right, the list there, that's the example. Sensitive and some of the other ones, the further you get away from that hard definition of like, we're gonna be sued if we don't, you know, like restricted data, there's a legal requirement. So once you get away from the legal requirement, we have stuff that we really don't want to lose, but those are different levels, like there may not be a hard legal requirement related to it.
So when it says,
Bunch of waters.
when it says restricted data, and then under it says other data types, it's saying, and these are also restricted. Is that what it's saying there? Which is odd.
I don't
'cause-
think so.
I don't think so.
No. So the at the top of the page here, we've got a thing that says sensitive information means, and so the list specifically that said, so we can't do sensitive or restricted, so both of these lists are no's for WiscWeb. Again, this all goes back to like, we didn't design the system to do this, and had we would have made different decisions about things.
So this would be a KB that would be helpful to have on the gravity form KB. Before you start asking for information, please refer to this that tells you
Oh,
what
yeah.
you can't ask for.
Noted.
That's a neat idea.
Noted.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I don't think about it often enough.
No, we don't ask everything weird.
No. But I do see campus IDs a lot, like for students, like they ask for student ID numbers.
Totally.
Yeah.
So.
Is that something I'm just curious,
Where's
that should
that
be,
here?
cannot be emailed? I don't know.
No, so campus ID isn't listed under sensitive.
But it is on ours, so it's under there, but they don't strictly state it as campus ID. So on ours, we say that because I think it wasn't clear to folks what that meant.
Oh.
So if you go to ours quick, it's
This is
listed
your-
as
that's what you're
employee or
referring to as
student
yours.
identification number, but if you had like searched the page for campus ID, it doesn't show up.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
And you're saying, for our conversation, this is information we would not want to ask for on a gravity form?
Excuse me, yes.
Okay,
Right.
Sensitive, not restricted.
Sensitive, not restricted.
Michael said campus IDs aren't restricted, and I think we're saying that they're sensitive.
So I want to know, are you saying then
I
that we
wanna
can't
know.
ask for it?
That's why I want
Where's
to
the
have somebody.
sensitive list?
It's the other part, basically. So
Yeah.
there's two components to this, the way they set this up. It says
Employee
sensitive.
and student identification numbers.
Oh,
are
yeah.
on the
All right.
third edit.
Right, so we would have said campus.
Aha!
Or at least I would have commonly said campus ID.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
a
That's
little
why you
bit
said you can't
confusing,
find
that's
it?
why in
Yeah,
ours,
okay.
we
Got it.
try to strictly state that, because we have more control over that.
Yeah, and so the third one from the bottom there where it says digitized signatures, that is a very accurate way to talk about what it is. It says ink signatures that have been digitized, so that,
Which is what your
I mean,
swipe is.
I'm not gonna call it ink, but yeah, the same idea that it looks like what you would have written on a
Yep.
piece of paper.
Well, I gotta tell you, ink signatures that have been digitized equals,
Ah.
I signed something, scanned it, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's an ink signature
Yeah.
that's been digitized.
So Michael's clarifying, they are okay to send via email, campus IDs.
Oh, good, thank you.
I'm not a security expert, so I'm not even gonna try and play it. Yeah.
Let's see.
'Cause I was asking for that in an email.
INSE, I guess. I'm not security.
Nope.
Almost like
INSE.
INAL. I am not a lawyer.
I think that's another good point to bring up, something in our form, we prompt for net ID, which is
Yep.
not considered sensitive or restricted, you can look up anyone's net ID, especially now with Office 365, it's pretty easy. It's the net ID at, WIS.edu email is available to anyone if you want to read it. You're looking at me like.
That's pretty
Well, I
wild. That's
can't
pretty
find
wild.
your whole net ID, I couldn't get to your password,
No,
Not password,
but
just net
it
ID.
gives you
just my net ID.
it gives
Yeah.
you door number one.
And we
to
prompt
into
for
my
that
world.
in our forms, because we can't add you to a site without 90D,
Yep.
and it is also how
Oh,
we
that's right.
assign a ticket to your account to you in Sherwell, which is our ticketing software.
Yeah.
And so we prompt for that, and sometimes there are folks that put their campus ID rather than their net ID. So a good distinction, hopefully, is your campus ID is always a set of numbers with no letters, whereas your net ID, it can be a combination, usually mostly letters, but it can have numbers in it. But we don't want you submitting your campus ID in our forms because we don't want to house that sensitive, restricted info. So always double check. It's usually something that resembles your first last name, maybe it's just your last name, combination. Mine's JM Clinner, so it's first initial, first name, first initial of middle name, and then my last name.
Yeah.
And I have to duck out.
I do too because the open lab's going to start here in a second. So Michael, yeah, I don't know. That's part of. We just need to guide. We need to provide better guidance on this moving forward. So, yeah. The question is noted. It's a conversation we've had in the past. We don't really have a good way. And honestly, we're not spot checking everybody's forms to be like, oh, they're asking for sensitive data. This is more of a please be aware of kind of thing and make appropriate changes and process updates as necessary. So, bye. Are you coming to the open lab? Maybe.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's it. We're gonna call it there. I guess I'll just to close up shop. Thank you all. You're great. I love you.
Won't you be my neighbor?
And clearly in the next couple of weeks, we will see more of you online only.
Yeah, like
From what I gather.
so Jenna just had to run off because she's involved in a lot of whatever these conversations are, and like I said, I have a communication written up. I'm just waiting basically for clarification of what I need to tell you all. It's not going to be that vastly different from what you're receiving from campus, but my thought is you need to get it from as many sources as you can so that there's no question as to what our processes are moving forward. Hopefully, I'm planning on sending that out tomorrow. I'm imagining that next week we're going to meet as a team and decide on what the future looks like for us, just based on in-person support via email, virtual office hours, virtual open labs, etc. And we'll see. It's like I said, it's a weird world that we're in right now, but we will try to be as what's the word I'm looking for?
Transparent.
Transparent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
We will try to be as transparent as possible, mainly because, and this stuff's important for you guys, because your audiences need to be able to know where to get their information from. I guess for those of you who are looking for ways to do more virtual type meetings and things like that, reach out to me because I'm more than happy to chat. No, Kelly, oh God.
No, I'm think of something.
You totally wrote that down right as I said
I know.
that too. Feel free to reach out to me. I've got a few ways that I do all of my virtual stuff, and I'm more than happy to chat with you all about it, or with anybody about it as well if you want just some guidance from my end. And like, similar to this, the whole streaming of these things and all the trainings that I do, I can walk anybody through that process. So that's it. That's the list. I'm going to head on over to the open lab. If you guys have any questions, do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We are we soldier forward together. So take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon. Later.